know how many of you are having their fine evening as well, but all from India in IST, I welcome you and wish you a great afternoon, and which should be all full of knowledge on TRIZ and particularly on business. So introducing Valerie is a rather very difficult task because he is truly a all-rounder persona. He's a avid tourer, likes to travel a lot, voracious reader. He reads. He is a real shutterbug, very cheerful, jovial, food lover, perfectly connoisseur of food,
Sir, your
soldier
voice is
of all.
bouncing back, sir.
Someone has kept his.
I'm
Please,
afraid
please
there are
mute.
some microphones out, so so there is an echo.
Okay. Now it would be better, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was telling like he's a really totally all-rounder personality. So let me concentrate only on his stress part because he has so many other dimensions to discuss on. He is a TRIZ master who has key professional interest in developing systematic and knowledge-based support of the early innovation phases in business and engineering. In 1989, he was a co-founder of Invention Machine Corporation, a company which introduced first ever software to support innovation based on TRIZ to the world. Rather, it was a very, very difficult task, but Valerie made it possible. In 2000, he co-founded the European TRIZ Association, which launched the global conference on TRIZ future. Since 2003, Valery Shusko heads ICG Training and Consulting, a company in the Netherlands with over 600 customers organization worldwide, including Fortune 500 companies. He also teaches TRIZ and systematic innovation at the University of IAS Business School. He is a vice president and board member of International TRIZ Association, which is termed as MATRIZ, president of the International Business TRIZ Association, and editor-in-chief of TRIZ Review Journal. Valery Shuskov is author and co-author of 3 books and over 100 papers on TRIZ and systematic innovation. TRIZ Association of Asia, along with all supporting institutes, welcome Valery for the session. And I should not be between Valery and the people who are very curious to listen to him. And I hand over the session to Valery. Please start, Valery.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks a lot for having me here. And I'm really happy to present, especially on your invitation. And hopefully, I don't know, but now there is no my screen anymore. I'm really happy
Jitendra Nagpure, can you just
present,
stop sharing your
especially
screen?
on your invitation. And I hear hopefully I don't know. There is with a long delay. Maybe somehow
Jitendra Nagpure,
changed.
your screen.
I hear in my speakers hear myself with a long delay. Can it be somehow changed?
You lost your screen.
Yes, but there is another problem, I guess. Okay, I'm getting to the because I see someone else's screen. Okay, now let me share it.
You lost your screen.
Yeah. Now, can you see my screen? Yes, but there is another problem, I guess.
Mr. Aditya Bhalekar, please shut down your video.
Someone else's screen. Okay, now let me share it. There is a big problem because I hear through the speakers, I hear myself with a delay like 10 seconds.
Okay.
Full, loud and clear.
Now it is okay, Valery. Continue.
All right. Thank you very much for fixing it. Okay. So, as I realized, we have approximately 20 minutes for presentation and then questions and answers, right? Okay. So, let me start. Well, usually when I'm asked to present TRIZ to a new audience, this is like a mission impossible because there is so much information up to date, so it's difficult to fit into a short presentation. Luckily, I have 90 minutes, which is quite good. So I'm trying to do my best. Well, my name was already presented, Valery Sushkov, and I'm residing in the Netherlands for the last 30 years. I was born in Belarus, in Minsk, a beautiful country, but sitting in Europe in Netherlands helped me to establish better connections with the world and be very mobile, because the Netherlands is a big hub, business hub in the world. So, what we are going to talk today, first of all, we are here to talk about business innovation, not innovation in technology or engineering, but business innovation. Second question we're going to have a look is, why is it difficult to come up with great breakthrough innovative solutions in business? Then I will only highlight a few words about what is TRIZ, because you know that there were recent presentations, but my very dear colleague Oleg Feginson, who gave you introduction, I don't know how many of you were there to listen to about TRIZ, about what it is and what is a modern TRIZ. I will highlight just a few things, and then I will switch to a demonstration how TRIZ helps for business innovation based on a case. And finally, we will have some time for questions and answers. Well, as was already mentioned, I have a rather rich experience with doing consulting and training for business and industry, for different industries. So I started my TRIZ journey about 30 years ago, and currently I'm busy with three big activities. One activity is professional training of professionals in TRIZ. I train people from 70 countries, and in total, more than 7,000 people came through certification training by me. My second activity is doing some consulting. I'm not just trained, but I also been involved in more than 150 projects helping companies to innovate, to deal with different sorts of innovative challenges. So at this screen, you see my technology and engineering customers, just few of them. In total, there are more than 600. And also since 2000, I'm busy with business innovation. So you can see some customers here on this slide where there was the projects or training courses were done for business innovation. So that's my activities. And also I'm teaching at the universities. My major university where I teach is Twente University here in the Netherlands. I do 3 courses, all related to TRIZ. And also recently I joined, recently 5 years ago, I was asked to join the TS Business School, where I also do sometimes do training for business customers of TS School, Business School. This is a business school at Tilburg University, between such companies as Shell, was established by such companies as Shell and Philips, to prepare management for these companies. So you see, if you look at these 2 slides, you see that the variety is huge. I think also more than 40 different types of industries. You can see this is technology, but also if you take companies like Philips, at Philips I did both technical innovation consulting and also business innovation consulting, so and so forth. So let's see. First of all, we are going to talk about business innovation. So let us have a look at what is business innovation, so we better understand it. Because when we speak about technical innovation, everything is pretty clear. This is something that you can hold in your hands, right? You take a phone. Oh, this is great. This beautiful Samsung, whatever, Note 10, beautiful innovation. The big difference between technical innovation and business innovation is that technical innovation can be patented. So you can apply patent, so it can be protected, so you can call investors and so on. This doesn't work in business. And the scope of business innovation is much broader than just a technology innovation. Because in technology innovation, we primarily look at the products, right? We do not look at the companies which produce this product. However, However, in business innovation, there are two large areas. One area, you can, of course, innovate business itself, but you can also innovate business products. For example, consulting business or services and so forth. So you see there are two large groups rather than in technical innovation. Let me show you some examples. For example, back in 1986, then 1886, J.C. Pemberton developed a new medicine, right, which was called Coca-Cola syrup. There was a thick syrup. There was no gas in it. And he was trying to sell it as a medicine against headache. And 6 years later, he found that some people were trying to take this syrup next day after a big last night when they had some hangover. And the syrup was not really well accepted. So he started to put a soda water in it. And suddenly people really loved just this syrup. So 6 years later, rather than selling it as a medicine, they established a company which was called Coca-Cola. You see what happened here? Basically, there was no new product. The product was the same. What was different is a different position in the market. So these examples show what is innovation? Of course, it was innovation. It was innovation because the same product moved from one market to the other market, which was much broader than the first one. And you know, today Coca-Cola is one of the biggest companies in the world. Another example. Well, in 1948, the guys who were selling toys decided, why don't we try sell toys in a supermarket way? Because before that, toys were stored like in a grocery store. You come, you can see, but you cannot touch. And they said, well, probably we could reach bigger sales if kids would be able to take the toys and play with them right on the shop floor, right? So the idea was very, very successful. So you see, if any toy store today is like supermarket, has a supermarket form. And then you see, 1948, 1986, 40 years later, Thomas Stenberg, who guy was working with office suppliers, and well, typically office supply store, he was running into problems that his customers wanted to have a supply of some toner for printers, and that was not available because these stores were closed on Saturdays, Sundays, and so on. So he decided, why not to take the supermarket format and apply it to selling the office supplies. And today, this is known as Staples, is a worldwide market company. Was it innovation? Yes. Again, you see, the product didn't change. What was changed was change the format of delivery of products to customers, consumers, and so on. So you see, but in reality, types of business innovations are many more. And but still, the principles how we can deal with these different types of innovations are almost identical. So let us have a look. What is business innovation? First of all, it might be either radically new. However, it's not just a new idea, but also it could be an old idea which is put into a new context. And it could create a non-obvious business solution, which has several features. First of all, it has to add or create a new value. What is most important, that this value must be able to be successfully captured. Because if you bring to the market some new solution and nobody can use it, well, there is no use of it. Also, it must be successfully implemented. And what is important, okay, something's wrong. And what is important, it must be accessible financially to the target group. Interesting that Viber told me that I don't have my camera showing me anymore. it is, I guess. Yes. So accessible means financially accessible. If Steve Jobs would deliver this beautiful, well, sorry, this is not iPhone, but his iPhone for 1 million euros per piece, no, who would be buying it? Okay. Now the question is, where can business innovation emerge? Well, here I draw a picture where I said that actually almost everywhere. Of course, first it could be a value proposition. Again, what would be a value proposition for business companies? Anything. Any company which produces iPhones, which produces, I don't know, coffee makers, a company which runs hotels, banks, they create some sort of value proposition. And if you're familiar with the technical TRIZ for technology engineering, you know very well how TRIZ can help to innovate, create breakthrough products or disruptive products. In our case, when we talk about business innovation, we are talking not just about innovating the, let's say, services, which are more closely related to sort of business activities. But we can also innovate, first of all, business system. The business system consists of business processes. Business system consists of a structure. We can innovate both of them. We can innovate any business process. We can innovate the structure of organization and so forth. But it's not enough. We can also innovate the business model. And business model includes not only internal processes and activities, but also external ones. How do we deal with our suppliers? How do we deal with our customers? How do we deal with our partners? And why can't we innovate our partners? We can, why not? We can help them as well. And the final question, can we innovate our customers? Well, the answer is obvious. Yes, we can. So you see, all these, what I put here, these red spots, these are about business innovation. All right. So, but again, we can innovate, but what can we do at each of these spots? There are basically 11 different so-called value innovation tasks. First of all, if you look at the most of innovative solutions in the world, these are not iPhones. These are not new business models. If you look at how many business models exist today, well, there is a book about 55 business models, probably. Of course, there are more. So it's a rare innovation when we create something radically, totally new. Most innovation goes where you need to eliminate some negative, unwanted, or undesired effects. If you look, for instance, in a technology at a patent collection, you will see that most of the patents are focusing on improving quality, making something better, and mostly making something better by eliminating these negative effects. For example, I would say that if you're delivering some service and this service fails, and the word is spreading all around, and everybody knows, no, we don't want to buy service from these guys because it is bad. Well, but why your service fails? Because there might be some negative effects. For example, you deliver a hotel service, and the beds, I travel very often. During last 4 years, I stayed in hotels 52 times, just in 4 years. And I know how troublesome it is to have a rest every time the bed is different. And I know now very well to which hotel chain I go and which hotel chains I don't go because of the beds. Otherwise, well, I lose my performance. Yeah. So this is a way of delivering services. And there is a failure. Eliminate this failure, and people will love you. And then because in business, the first and major question always how to make bigger sales, right? How to grow sales, how to grow company. This is a major performance indicator of a company is how much company sells. So this creates a market value of a company, of a business. And you will sell much more. Of course, you can create new value proposition, you can create new services, etc. But you can also sell much more by eliminating disadvantages, by creating quality, by improving quality. Second type of value innovation task is we want to improve performance of something. Okay, I will not get into details on these slides. You can have a look at it and see. The third type of value innovation is sort of decrease in dimensions, decrease in energy consumption, decrease in number of steps in the processes, and so forth. Next, it would be improving design and psychological attractiveness of your products and services. It also comes together with improving user experience. If, let's say, 50 years ago, we almost didn't matter about user experience, today it becomes a really, really critical issue. And only now, something comes at adding new functions and features to the existing solutions or services. Also, a really important part of innovation is radically cutting costs of a business systems, process, or a value proposition. Actually, by radically cutting costs, we create disruptive innovation. Disruptive innovation is not something really new. No, disruptive innovation is when you have something which is on the market, but it's not accessible to a broad group because it might be too expensive, right? Disruptive innovation, when you bring the service or product which was not accessible, or not available to a large group of people or market in the past, and make it accessible. If you remember the first iPhones, and again, the smartphones were quite expensive, around $1,000 per piece. And then the disruption came, and they started to to be sold for 200, 300, let's say American dollars or euros, which considerably increased the size of the market. Next, there would be finding new markets. Next, for existing products or services, or business models even. Expanding, transforming, or creating new value networks. Creating a radically new business model, and creating a radically new value proposition. That's what we're talking about pioneering inventions. I don't know how you can see that screen, that there is a gray triangle behind these words, which actually shows that the number of such innovations is dropping. Well, like I said, most of innovation comes from actually dealing with unwanted, undesirable, negative effects. So, why it is difficult to make business innovation? First of all, let's remember that innovation, there are two types of innovation. First, you invent something. Some great idea comes to your mind. And, we have kids here. Hello. So some great idea comes to our mind. It's not a secret that approximately 49% of startups fail not because they're running out of money or because of bad management. The major cause of startup failures on the market is that 49% is that they are bringing a product or a service which nobody needs. That's why we always say that the best innovation comes from resolving a problem. There are always problems everywhere, right? And problems have to be solved. And when we see a problem, we say, okay, I must solve this problem. And then I bring a solution to the world. And this solution, if this problem was not solved, had not been solved yet, will create a great breakthrough innovation. So we are going to solve problems. And this is the best way to create innovations, is to solve problems. That's why we are talking, by the way, about the theory of solving inventive problems. But there are two types of problems. When you engage to engineering school or a business school, you will be dealing with primarily what we call closed problems. What are closed problems? That's what we study at school, at universities. Mathematics, algebra, statistics. These are closed-end problems. Because once you have a problem, you can apply some equations and you come up with certain solutions. And the number of the solutions is predefined. Right? Like if you take, let's say, multiplication, 2 by 2 will be 4. One solution, that's it. Also, what's good about these problems, they can be easily solved because we know the algorithms, we know the equations. So when we are engineers, when we study engineering, or when we study business, we study primarily how to calculate things and how to optimize things. optimization is also a way of solving problems. On the other hand, we have the other sort of problems, which are open-ended problems. Open-ended problems assume that there is infinite numbers of solutions. Let me give you a very simple example. You see, I have this beautiful water, Visperia. It's mineral water from Italy, one of my favorites. And now the question is, you see there is water inside, and the question is, I want to move water out of this bottle. How do I do that? You know, first of all, well, to move it from the bottle without touching the bottle, I put the bottle on the table, and now I want to find a way how to remove water from the bottle without touching the bottle. Well, when you start thinking, you will come up with different solutions. You can say, okay, I can use a straw, right? Well, second, you can heat the bottle, and the water will just evaporate. And what you can also do, okay, there is a table, I can kick the table. The table will turn, go upside down, and water will be removed. Once we did an experiment, we found approximately 150 such solutions, how you can remove water from the bottle without touching the bottle. So you see, we cannot say, maybe there are more solutions. We just stopped when we found 150. So basically, there is no way to say how many. But out of these 150 solutions, you see, they are not possible to create by mathematics. These are qualitative solutions. And the best solution would be a solution which completely meets our requirements, our constraints. And we always say that in TRIZ, we love something that we call ideal solutions. What is an ideal solution? Ideal solution, when the problem is solved in full, you get the result you want with zero efforts and zero costs. Well, what would be, you know, the company Facebook, right? And I know that some people on Facebook right now are watching this video. You know, Facebook has employees. I don't know how many, maybe 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, doesn't matter. But these employees do not really create value to Facebook, to any social network. The value is created by the users. So we create value to social networks, to Facebook. And how much Facebook does pay us? Zero. So we are all who are on Facebook. We are employees of Facebook who get no salary at all. So Facebook has us, and the market value of Facebook is so high because we are there. And how much do we get for it? Nothing. Well, that's a beautiful example of an ideal solution. And if you are smart, and if you learn TRIZ, and TRIZ, everything is about how to find these sort of ideal solutions. But of course, to do that, you have to learn TRIZ. Another huge challenge and obstacle, which doesn't let us to quickly come up with inventive solutions, are contradictions. If you Google the word TRIZ, you will most likely, the first word which will come up will be a contradiction. TRIZ is based, and not just about TRIZ, everything in the world based on the spiral evolution. And everything evolves according to meeting and overcoming some barriers. And you cannot overcome a barrier within the same paradigm with which this system or problem was created. You have to go out of the box. You have to change paradigm. This is necessary. For example, if you want to go from A to B, you can use a horse. And 300 years, the horse was the fastest way to go from A to B. But horse maximum speed is just 70 kilometers per hour. But what if you want more? Well, you can, of course, then 5 horses, but they will not run 5 times faster. Their speed will still be limited by 70 kilometers per hour. You need to find a new paradigm. So a new paradigm came with invention of engine, right? Internal combustion engine. With internal combustion engine, you can fly with, you can even fly with it, no doubt, if you put it on a plane or a helicopter. but you can run with like 300, 400 kilometers per hour. Then there are planes. And again, with internal combustion engines, you do not reach high speeds. You need to go faster. You want to go faster, you switch to turbines. Right. So you want to go from turbines to even faster, you want to fly to space to reach speed of 20,000 kilometers per hour, then you use rocket engines, which are totally different, well, than a turbines. Also, the principle is more or less the same. Okay, so you see, you go over this barrier. So every time you have a certain system, you evolve it, you want to go further, you want to have a jump, but you cannot do it within the old paradigm. You have to switch paradigm. And that happens with everything. The same with your company. If you start a company with making shoes and you do it as a handmade shoes, how many shoes you can make? If you want to bring your handmade shoes company into the world market, for the mass market, you will need to hire millions of people. That wasn't going to work. So you have to change a paradigm. Rather than people who made your shoes, you need to build machines or bring machines. So you're changing the paradigm. However, when you are facing these difficulties, then what you have is you're facing the barriers, constraints. And you cannot come with an old paradigm because when you apply the old paradigm, something gets worse, something changes. So contradictions happens when you meet a situation when two opposite requirements have to be met at the same time. Opposite. What does it mean? Let me show you some examples. So the word contradiction means that something has to have two opposite properties or states at the same time. It's contradiction. If you read the definition of contradiction in philosophy, it will say that contradiction is a statement which includes two incompatible meanings. So something must be black and white at the same time. So if you look at this my screen right now, you will see that we have these contradictions emerging all the time. For instance, our company wants to cut budget, so the employee has to leave the company in order to save budget. But at the same time, the company wants to keep his competence in the company. So you see, we face a conflict of requirements. Employee must leave and must stay. Another example. A company is willing to make its service transparent to its customer, to grow the trust from the customer. And at the same time, it doesn't want the its competitors, to learn about how they do their services. So the service must be transparent and non-transparent. A company wants to implement a new technology, is starving to implement this new technology to increase performance, but at the same time, it doesn't want to have a risk because any investment, any new technology might bring company to failure. Finally, a service should bring extra features to better satisfy customers. But these extra features cost money. And the company is not sure if that new features would really compensate that cost. On one hand, the service should include extra features or operations and should not include extra operations. How do we usually deal with such situations? If you do not know TRIZ, if you're not an innovator, you try to compromise. For example, you could offer an employee, okay, we don't want to leave you, so you stay 2 hours or 4 hours in our company or 20 hours a week, and so forth. So we are looking for compromises. However, an innovative breakthrough solution would come if you find such a solution that employee leaves the company 100% and company keeps his competence 100%. Is that possible? Well, of course, I know now there are many people online and this session is not really interactive, but I will tell you, yes, it is. Yes, it is. For example, I had this station several times, even with some of my companies. And what we did, we simply outsourced that employee to our supplier with an ability to reach that company, that employee anytime we wish. And our supplier did it. So, But later, this supplier was merged again with companies and with our company, so the employee came back. Well, I'm not sure what is on my screen right now. Someone wants to annotate something. I do not know. I have to.
These are the examples of contradiction.
Yes, and I decline. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not an expert in the system, so I put a decline. Yes, sorry. All right. So now let's come. If you want to stay in the past, you optimize and compromise. If you want to move ahead and innovate, you have to break the contradiction, eliminate. How do you eliminate these contradictions? You change your system or in a situation in such a way, then these conflicting opposite requirements, they disappear. So, of course, I want to show you some example, and you will see a case right now, a real case from my practice. But before going that, let's summarize. Why is it difficult once we face a challenging problem? And we know if we solve this problem, we get a great result. Why can't we do that? Because absolutely very often the problems consist of many sub-problems. And to solve the overall problem, we have to first deal with that sub-problem. And most often we don't. We just take some particular problem, try to solve it. We spend time, we spend efforts, and suddenly nothing happens. And we are stopping in the middle of the process. We already spent too much time. The problem is not solved. So we say, okay, next time. Next, a wrong problem is being solved. You wouldn't believe it. In all my consulting practices, when companies call me to help with either problem solving or forecast or creating new products or creating new services or helping to innovate their business model, in 70% of cases, well, I learned first when I come to a company, I want to know what's been done already before me. And they show me. And in 70% of cases, I discover that they were solving a wrong problem. Listen, 70% of cases. 70% of cases, it's a lot. And you've seen the list of companies, some companies I dealt with, you wouldn't call them novices or you wouldn't call them poor companies. No, they're the best in the world. Next, what makes problems difficult is contradictions, conflicts of requirements. You know the situation, you want what you know what you want. When you try to do it, well, you have this conflict and you do not know what to do with it. You know that you should go out of the box and stay out, but how? And why it is difficult, I'll show you next. Because it is very difficult because psychological inertia blocks living in a known paradigm and go out of the box. What is psychological inertia? This is our knowledge. These are our habits. These are our patterns that we accumulated in our mind due to a long history of our evolution. Well, I mean, of course, we were children. Here in home, children go to school at 4 years old, and they start learning. And once you're an engineer at 23, you already had like 17 years or something learning. And then you go to engineering, then you go to company, then you go to business. And all this accumulates to your head. It's great. It's knowledge. It's actually what makes you a valuable professional. But once you need to go out of paradigm, you are stuck because you don't know how. There are some ways, and the most famous is brainstorm. But brainstorm helps not in a very limited number of ways. I will show you. So imagine we are facing a problem. We are standing in the middle and we are looking for a solution. The open-ended problem. Oh, for instance, like I said, we have the situation you have to fire an employee and at the same time to keep him. What do? You start guessing with trials and errors. Brainstorm. The old method, which has already been there for more than 100 years. And the idea of brainstorming is to generate as many as possible solutions and then select the right one. So the indicator of good performance is a number of solutions. So you do one search, you do the second trial, you make another solution, another solution, another solution. This is your initial search space. Then you grow your search space. You go again and again and again. You make trials and trials and trials. And even more, once you discover that you've got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a princess. um, but if you look at this search space, and all these red ones are non-working solutions, well, they're okay. They solve the problem, but they do not match your requirements. However, here in this big red area, you have a small sector. You see, this is a yellow one, working solutions. And within this working solutions, you have a really small sector, which are so-called ideal solutions, which have maximum cost versus lowest cost. And the trouble is that the more difficult problem is, like Confucius used to say, it is difficult to find a black cat in a dark room, especially when the cat is not there. So that's what we are doing here. That's why when I come companies, they tell me, Valerie, we spent 5 years, we spent 7 years, but the problem is not solved. What to do in such cases? And another trouble is that brainstorm works well when the difficulty of the problem is rather low. Well, for instance, we want to invent a new idea for an advertisement. Here, as our creativity is unlimited, we can invent anything, right? So, but if we are dealing with pragmatic situation, when we have too many constraints, our scope of possible solutions is very limited. Because, again, we can find many solutions, but not all of them, 99% of them, will not be acceptable in our particular situation due to constraints. So that's what happens. The more difficult the problem is, the more trials and errors you have to make. Yes. And for example, maybe you know that Thomas Edison, when he was inventing was looking for a material for an incandescent lamp for a wire before he found the right material. I forgot what is that. Okay, he made 10,000. His lab, of course, not him. He made like 10,000 attempts. But when they developed accumulator, his lab, Thomas Edison lab, they made 50,000 attempts. So that's what price we pay for not knowing how to deal with such problems. Also, I showed you already in the very beginning about the Toys R Us and Staples. But if you looked at the first ever supermarket was created in 1916, then it took how many? 32 years to share this concept on toys. And then another 40 years, almost 40, 38 years to share this same concept on the office supply store. 40 years here, 40 years here, 40 years here. Why? Well, that's our mental inertia. That's our psychological inertia. We can see, but we do not do this transfer. It is a situation when lots of solutions are already available, but they are in different areas. And we might see them, we might know them, but we do not make this connection, right? Great solutions are always connecting different industries, different ideas, different paradigms. So this shows the price we pay. And now I want to explain you how TRIZ works. And first, let's start with a case. In 2010, I was invited. There was a large project here in the Netherlands and Belgium, by the way, about spreading TRIZ around the world. And I was invited to a company which, by that time, existed for 20 years. What they did, they invented their own process how to create carbon reinforced parts. Yes, how does it work? You see, the owner of this company patented that overbraiding machine. So first you have a sort of a preform, the plastic preform or whatever it made. It could be made from a card box. And you create this part by overbraiding the carbon fibers around this preform. And then this inner part is removed, like, well, it could be anything like paper. And then some chemical is applied on to keep it in that shape. Could be epoxy resin, for example. So what's advantage of this process is great because the parts which you can make this way, well, I'm sure that every one of you saw that parts, they have excellent capabilities. Very lightweight, very low structural stress, high structural mass under heavy load, non-degradable, no rust, and shock impact resistant. What are the cons or disadvantages? Well, price. And price is not because the carbon fiber is too expensive. It is. It was like 300 euros per kilogram, but today it goes like to 15 euros per kilogram. So it's not that expensive. But the problem is how long you need to spend, how much time you need to spend to make this process. So maybe to make a roof beam for a car, it would take maybe 10 minutes. Compare if you make a car with a stamping, 1 second, 2 seconds, and 10 minutes here. So this makes cost really high. And these machines are quite big. They're like 3 meters in diameter, by the way. So when I came to the company, why did they call me? Because of this. The company existed for 20 years. It had 20 employees, and it didn't grow at all during that time. Why? Well, here you can see a screenshot from the one of the biggest Dutch newspapers, NRC. The south of the Netherlands makes BMW the quote. So this is a story about this company that the Arnold Boskamp, who was founder of this company, for almost a decade tried to get into relationship with bigger car manufacturers. Okay, I must say that when I came there, the products of these companies were unique, one of a kind, not one of a kind, but unique products. For example, the bumpers for or strike cones for Lamborghini. Also, they had chassis for military helicopters. So they were producing parts for extremely high products, for extremely expensive products. So, and they wanted to go for a broader market. For a broader market, they have to expand, and they have to grow a number of products that they deliver to customers. So, how many Lamborghinis Aventador is made per year? 100. So they made hundreds crash cones. Well, that's it. How many military helicopters are made? Well, maybe also of a certain kind, maybe 500. That's it. But they wanted to really go broader. So they talked to companies like BMW, Daimler Chrysler, and they proposed to make parts for these companies. So actually, you see what the advantage would be. If this material allows you to hit a wall at 180 kilometers per hour and still you get alive. Well, huge advantage. However, you see, for BMW, it turned out to be quite bummed to work with such a small company as Eurocarbon. Well, of course, when I came there, I learned a lot of details about this case. And, well, basically, there were investors around Eurocarbon, and they were ready to invest. But before investing, they wanted to have a commitment from a big automotive company that is going to place an order. So they got to the vicious loop. The customer of Eurocarbon asked a question: can you guarantee 100% delivery in time meeting all the specs? Eurocarbon: yes, if you guarantee that you place an order. Then we will invest and expand. But customer says, no. We only will close the deal if you demonstrate your capacity and guarantee 100% timely delivery with meeting all the specs and demands required. Vicious loop. For 10 years, they were into this vicious loop. And then we came with TRIZ. So let me tell you a few words about TRIZ. What is that? If you never heard about TRIZ, well, you have to dig into literature. There are over 600 books, over 40 languages. And on my website, I keep a list of English language books on TRIZ. And at this moment, I have around, a list is about 100 titles. only in English published on TRIZ. However, 99.999% of the books is about technical TRIZ, classical TRIZ, and technical TRIZ. There are only too few books on TRIZ for business. Well, I'm also now writing a book, and hopefully it will be ready by the end of the year, where I bring something that I'm telling you in this presentation in a book format. All right. So, I'm sure that some of you already learned the presentation. You can also find it on the YouTube from TRIZ Association of Asia. Just ask them and they will show you, or maybe they provide a reference, a bigger presentation of TRIZ, which was made by Dr. Oleg Fagenson just a month ago. What I would say is that today TRIZ is used by such companies as Samsung, General Electric, Hyundai, Procter & Gamble, and others, Intel Corporation, as a leading practice for innovation. Also, the TRIZ, which stands for Theory of Solving Inventive Problems, actually TRIZ is a Russian abbreviation, which means Теория решения изобретательских задач, was initiated by the Russian inventor Henry Altshuler, and it started in 1956 with publishing the first ever paper on TRIZ. By now, TRIZ is a result of more than 600 years of research and development by more than 300 people. And even if you look at the number of research papers on TRIZ, there will be up to 10,000 today, including Russian language and other languages. So TRIZ and systematic innovation are a set of methods and techniques which help to identify, formulate, and solve non-ordinary, open-ended problems to produce high-quality innovative ideas, and it's most important, within much shorter time than by random search. This is a critical issue of TRIZ. Major TRIZ discoveries are the following. First of all, well, the best innovative solutions are result from solving problems. And usually we call them unsolvable problems, but all unsolvable problems at a certain moment are solved. As I already mentioned, a breakthrough solution means that you eliminate contradiction of requirements. What is extremely important, that the ways of solving the contradictions or conflicting requirements, they could be solved at 99% and more of solutions use already existing solution principle. And this I will show you what this I mean with existing solution principle. What is absolutely great that these solution patterns of solving innovative problems are universal across different domains. Another biggest discovery of TRIZ was the finding that all the artificial systems, doesn't matter if it's a technical system, or it's a microchip, or it's a car, or it's a ship, or it's a company, business company, they evolve by according to the same trends and lines, and they go through the sequence of certain patterns. Well, at the end of my presentation, I'll show you some. So the whole evolution of artificial systems or man-made systems is not random. Well, it is governed by certain rules. So you have to know these rules and regularities. And certainly, once you know this, that new innovative solutions can be produced in a systematic way by reusing previous experience. Well, at this picture, I want to show the timeline of evolution of TRIZ and parts which actually came from TRIZ. So, if you have a look at this, that TRIZ for Engineering and Technology, first paper, 1956, and it's still evolving. Well, there were some other things like back in 1984, we can say that TRIZ went from technical to non-technical areas. In 1999, TRIZ went really to business. Well, of course, there was some research within that time on TRIZ for business, and This was again TRIZ for technology engineering, this TRIZ for business and management. And I think their major breakthrough was in 2003 when Darrell Mann published the book, Hands-on Systematic Innovation for Business and Management. At that time, it was primarily copy and paste from the technology engineering. Today, the framework has been already largely expanded from what was put in his book, but his book is still remains maybe not the maybe, but in English language, the first ever published. Before that, there were some books on how to use TRIZ in marketing, how to make some use TRIZ in advertisement, published in 1990s by St. Petersburg School in Russia, but they only remain in Russian language. So, what is TRIZ and how it helps us? Well, sorry, what is TRIZ? I've already explained, but how TRIZ helps us. Well, what is business TRIZ today? Now, don't be shocked what I'm going to show you at the next slide. Usually we think that TRIZ is just a tool, right? You go, you search on Google, what the hell is TRIZ? And they tell you, oh, TRIZ is a tool. Not exactly. Today, TRIZ consists of 3 large frameworks, and they have different sort of targets. First, which comes from really original TRIZ, is, okay, we have a problem and we want to solve it. Well, problem I already showed you. The employee has to be fired and has not to be fired. The problem with Eurocarbon company. The investment should be made, and investors do not want to lose the risk of investing. Solving particular problems. These are problems emerging every day, everywhere. And you always have 2 ways to solve them. One way is to do some sort of compromise, and second, eliminate a contradiction. Well, it all depends on the goals. Second big area in business TRIZ is when you're not focusing on a particular problem, but you study your system, process, service, and you try to find its innovative potential, current innovative potential, which you can implement next day. So you're focusing on the challenges and problems. You analyze, for instance, your company, you identify the problems, and you bring this problem to the list, you rank them, and so forth. Also, a big part of that green area is product disruption through cost reduction. Product business, it's also about business, it's about service as well. And there is a big third area, which is based on knowing the trends, patterns, and regularities of business systems evolution, right? If you apply it, if you just make a startup, for example, you know through which stages this startup will go, and you know what challenges are to be expected, and you know the patterns which you can apply to come over these challenges. The same could be, for instance, applied to your service. You start some service, and then you see the evolution of your service, and you know what will be the best path of evolving your service in the future. And in this presentation, since we have a little bit short of time, I will only show you this first part. But here is a list, and this list shows the tools which are used in each of these 3 large parts of business TRIZ. Of course, I don't have time to talk about every tool, but you see there are 24 something tools in this table. There are tools like problem perception, so we have to understand what the problem is. There are tools for analysis of the problem. I will show you it in a second. These are tools actually supporting the whole process from problem definition to actually evaluating ideas and creating integral ideas list. Second, we are dealing with existing processes, systems, processes. There are something like MPV analysis, when we try to understand what really matters, which parameters, which features of our system or a process really matter. We have a technique which is called value conflict mapping. What we do, we identify all the blocks which do not let us move our business system or our service next, and so forth. And the third, we have future innovation road mapping. We have, you see, eliminating contradiction by disrupting business models, S-curve analysis of systems evolution, loss of business systems and products evolution, pattern and lines of business systems evolution, diversification of business models and new markets discovery, and so on. So next, let's focus on this first part. Again, you remember I showed you this picture with mental inertia. Actually, what we want to save our time and effort by avoiding moving to these wrong solutions, which anyway will not fit. What we want, we have a navigation right from the point where we are towards the best solutions, the most ideal solutions. To do that, we have a process which you can apply to any problem. It consists of 6 steps, and it is 3 large phases. First phase are 3 steps. We establish goals, we analyze situation, we have problem selection and definition. We have several tools for that, something like problem perception mapping, innovation questionnaire. Here we also build a business model to understand where we are, and we can also do value stream, value chain mapping, and so forth. Well, but primarily there are 2 tools for any problem, and the rest it's up to you. They are not TRIZ tools, so but they could be complementary. Next, once we identify the top problem, that a right problem to solve, because also we have a special tool here to agree with the stakeholders of which problem is correct, because any problem can be represented by different problems. Here we decompose our top problems to numbers of problems. Then we select a strategy of further problem solving, and we select contradiction, because difficult problems can have many contradictions or several contradictions or conflicts of requirements in them. So this is our analytical phase. And then we jump to a creative phase, when we apply patterns of solutions, which gives us the directions of a search. And once we generate the solution, the ideas, like we are here, we avoid generating thousands of ideas. No, maybe we generate 20 ideas, but these are the best. We analyze them and build ideas landscape. And then where the part which is not shown here is to build an implementation plan and define secondary problems. The huge advantage of applying TRIZ is that you are, rather than trying to, in a brainstorm, find a specific solution to a specific problem, we do it different. First of all, we analyze situation, we find an abstract problem, and we identify it as a contradiction. Then we apply the TRIZ database of solution patterns, which gives us certain directions of a search. We generate abstract solutions, which we instantiate into specific solutions to be analyzed and evaluated. What are these patterns? Well, there are 40 patterns. That's called 40 inventive principles, which propose 190 recommendations or sub-principles, illustrated by 415 examples. So, just a second, I'm going to show you what this yeah, wait a second. I'm not leaving it. All right, so it's better. So this is how it looks like. No, not yeah. This is collection of these 40 principles. Well, if you type 40 inventive principles in the Google, you will instantly jump to a classical system of 40 inventive principles for technology and engineering. This system is not on a Google, or maybe you can find it, I don't know. But it is for business and management. So you see each principle, yes, consists of the number. It is important. You see 1, 2, 3. Name, recommendations, which are independent, by the way. This is not 1, 2, 3. It just every recommendation can be used, and examples which show how this principle is used in real life. Right. So, for example, you have a principle of, well, I come back to. So there are 40 principles like that. So I'm jumping back to my presentation. And I say the principle of local quality. It says that if you want to solve a certain contradiction, and which contradiction I will show you next, instead of a uniform structure of your object, move to a non-uniform structure. Instead of a uniform structure of your process, go to a non-uniform structure. Vary in time or space a part of your process that causes problems. Instead of uniform structure of environment, move to non-uniform structure. And then you see a problem. Like a company creates profit centers which focus on the profit and loss capabilities. Franchise fast food outlets use local foods, right? Like McDonald's. Well, if you go to McDonald's in different places, that was an innovation by McDonald's, by the way. You also can buy a local food, right? I remember when I started to travel back in the end of 80s, all around the world, worldwide. Well, every McDonald's has almost the same food. So, but now if you go to McDonald's, it's one culture, well, food culture, you will see the local foods. There's a food culture, you will see the other foods, and so on. Like a product with similar complementary functionality are placed close to each other in a store, and so forth. So these are examples. They are given here for inspiration to better understand what is shown here. Right. And now, okay, you have this 40, and in reality, it's 190, because you cannot. Some people ask me, okay, let's take this collection of 40 principles. We have a problem and start applying it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because after checking 4 or 5 principles, you will create another type of mental inertia. You will be blocked by these principles. So the question is, how to know which principle is best for my problem? For that, Yannick Schuler created originally so-called contradiction matrix, where you have the different types of conflicting parameters, where you can identify this pair of conflicting parameter, and here in every cell you have the numbers. You've seen in each principle you have a number. 40 principles, then you have up to 4 numbers here, 4 or 5 numbers. Where the best, most relevant principles to solve this particular type of a contradiction. By the way, the contradiction matrix which is here, it is not business one. Business one is very similar. That's the technology one, but it doesn't matter. It is available publicly. So this particular matrix can solve like 225 types of typical contradictions. So how do we use it in our situation? Let's go back to your couple. This is a process. First, we establish goals, we define problems, we agree with problem stakeholders what a real problem is. Well, of course, I will not give you details, I'll just show you some screens, that's it. We have no time for it. I wanted to show how process works. So we identify the common problem, and next we go to top-down decomposition of the problem. And we apply a tool which is called root conflict analysis, or RCA+, which was developed for TRIZ. But today this tool is also used broadly for analyzing on type of problems. So the top problem was selected like no further growth in the direction of perform production. So we want to have more performance, but we cannot grow. And then by asking questions, what is the cause, we go down and create such a tree of causes and effects. However, unlike in a typical root cause analysis, where we just go down, here we are looking not into depth, but into the breadth. So the philosophy of this tool is it is still cause and effect analysis, but rather than looking down, we are looking horizontally. Our task is not to find the deep causes, but our task is to find the conflicts of parameters, contradictions that block us from solving this problem. And in this case, we have just causes. You see minus red ones, which are causes. And then we have blue ones. You see this blue box. Blue boxes are contradiction, right? And the green boxes are positive effects. So once we create this model, we have the whole problems inventory, and we have contradictions discovered. There are 5 actually contradictions here. Well, one is was missing. And finally, we take the contradictions that we are going to solve. High volume production requires a high degree of confidence of customers. It's good. We reduce risk by a customer, but the negative effect is lack of steady volume orders. Another cause, Eurocarbon is a small company. It's good. We reduce risk of growth investments, but it's bad, so nobody sees the company as a volume supplier. Okay, once we choose a contradiction, we go to solve it. And we apply contradiction matrix, which produces us 4 or 5 principles. And for our contradiction, right, that there is no trust and reduced of risk investments, there were 2, well, most interesting principles. Principles of merging and principles of taking away. So, okay, we have no time. This is not a learning session, so I just will give you some highlight. Merging means that when you have a contradiction and there are several parts engaged into this contradiction, try to merge them, right? Time, space, business-wise, technology-wise, and so forth. Also, taking away means that if you have some certain object in your system which also creates a contradiction, move it away from your system. Oh, interesting. What is a part which creates contradiction? In our case, these are machines which create this overbreeding. And the customers are not sure that the machines will generate enough volume and enough quality and be delivered in time. Well, and the major trouble was that they cannot control it. So the question is, why can't we take these machines and outsource them, not to the, let's say, BMW, but we merge BMW in our small company. Of course, BMW doesn't want to purchase us, so why not create a joint venture, right? Which will be full controlled by us, by Eurocarbon, and by BMW, for example. Or we can create machines, fully customized editions for necessary parts of BMW or Daimler Chrysler, right? It will be also taken away. We're not going to produce them ourselves, but we are going to put them outside. So at the end, a number of different ideas was created. Let's say I put here 11 ideas. If you have if you have this access to video to rewatch it, you can read it. And finally, we have these ideas and have to create a portfolio and then analyze them. So the analysis of ideas is done in 2 ways. Actually, three ways, but primarily what we do, we apply the multi-criteria decision matrix. We give each criteria a weight, and then we compare each idea with the other one. And then we create so-called ideas landscapes. So we create several ones, which we bring together in a integral one. So on the vertical axis, we have idea performance. So you see each red spot is an idea. And on the x-axis or horizontal axis, we have 3 different landscapes. It's estimated time to market, it's estimated cost to market, and estimated total costs of ownership to a consumer. Well, if we are talking about products, it will be the consumer or customer. If we are talking about our own company, because that could be a redesign or change management in our company, then customers are our company. So we bring them all together, and you see in this chart you have 4 quadrants. Well, this is the best quadrant, because here we have the top ideas, top performance ideas, and those which are easiest or fastest to bring to the market with lowest cost of ownership and with lower cost to the market. So you see that there are several ideas here: co-development with large customers and technology network. And this red one is a bad area, bad quadrant, ideas with the lowest potential. Well, here there were some other ideas generated. So the top ideas are here, And usually the best ideas are combinations of several ideas. So coming to our company, there was like, it could be like the ideas were a combination of several ideas, and establishing a separate business zone to management by Eurocarbon and the customer. Eurocarbon, which has a new business, produces custom machines for making performance for specific customers. So customized machines, definitely. And establish a sort of a techno center to work with potential customers and other parties to develop new technologies for producing both high volume and unique products. Well, if you look today at the map, when I visited them, there was just one company called Eurocarbon today, and that was taken just a small part of this building. Today, this big building is the company, which is not just Eurocarbon, but another company, Eurobrader, was created. They produce customized machines. Also, they created worldwide agent networks, which was also the ideas. And finally, they came up with a new business strategy of a company. The company strategy changed towards working together with the customer. Together will make the difference. Right. Oh, sorry, something. People are coming for online training. That's great. All right. Oh, no, sorry. That's enough. Okay. So, to my report, I haven't spoken to them for a couple of years, but they already made some agreements with these automotive companies. After this, of course, I wouldn't say that I myself developed all this. No way. I was helping them to go through the process. The ideas were found by them. That's my favorite way of doing the TRIZ consulting. When it's not me who come up with great ideas, but I bring the tools, I bring the process, or people learn the process and the tools and come up with ideas themselves. We are running short of time, so this was exactly what I wanted to show you, how the TRIZ approach works. So first, it's a process, and most important that each step in this process is supported by certain tools. Right. So this is an extremely important to know. When we move down to, I only can say a few words about the rest. Like, I think that many of you can be really interested in something. What are these trends and lines of evolution of business systems? Well, first of all, there are certain regularities, certain trends, which show how systems evolve and through which troubles or through which jumps it goes. We call them S-curve jumps. Why S-curve? Because you see, for example, if you look at the Apple, how was Apple through was going? Through this course of, you see, almost every company you can see this ups and downs, which actually are reminding the Latin letter S. Well, again, it's no time today to explain what it is. I show you that this is evolution through coming up with new product. This is evolution through changing the company business model, the company IBM. Again, S-curve, S-curve, S-curve. And this is an example. This blue line is actually the S-curve. Because evolution of every business or a business stream, we can identify as 4 stages. The new business is created, the growth of this new business, then the preserve performance, and finally it's going to decline because there is no way you stay 100 years selling the same product. No way. Competitors will come. There are many models on this following S-curve. Another is, for instance, levels of solutions. Level means the innovativeness, degree of innovativeness of the solutions. So the most innovative solutions are here when you create a new business and when you grow it. When you maintain it and when you're trying to stop it from declining, then you're mostly dealing with costs, dealing with reducing operations, reducing business infrastructure, and so forth. So, and but what is interesting that there are certain patterns through which the system goes here, 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 or here. For example, the trend of dynamization of object system. First, the system you create is non-changeable fixed. Then you break it into different parts, right, with flexible links. Then you move to system with a very high degree of subsystems or cells, let's say. Then your system starts acquiring dynamically dynamically appearing or disappearing subsystems. So some department can only be established when it's only needed, and when it's not needed, it could be eliminated. Then you can come to a completely appearing, disappearing system. The whole company can only emerge when it's needed, and when it's not needed, it can disappear. And finally, a flow can be used instead of a system. So it's moving up, but again, this is something which takes more time to explain. So, for example, is large non-flexible company, a company of units having certain degree of freedom, network of independent companies, interim company management, mobile company units, and again, like I said, companies created to deliver function and disappear. Well, all these trends, they are basically brought into a system. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is here. So trends and lines of evolution of a system, you can see here. There are several trends of dynamization. Object dynamics increase, process dynamic increase, symmetry dynamization, actions coordination. You see there are steps like traveling to dimensions evolution, diversity increase, structuring of system, a flat system, a nested system, increase difference between nested systems, a layered structure, dynamically changing structure, matrix type system, and dynamically changing system. Here you can see the examples. Right. But something that you can see right now is that everything is shown here is rather abstract, right? It is true. It is a difference between, let's say, TRIZ and mathematics or physics. TRIZ doesn't give you exact solutions. TRIZ gives you directions of search. And this is very important, that the same direction can be used for generating a number of ideas, not just sticking to one specific exact idea. Okay, I think I have like 7 minutes left. A few words I will tell you about the implementing. Like I said, that we can also, the birth of TRIZ for business management was somewhere in 1980s. The real start started in the beginning of 2000s. The first, let's say, value proposition packages like training courses, consultancies started from 2007. But today we have quite a complete package. I'll show you the 3 big areas of business TRIZ: solving specific problem, analytics, and future road mapping, and all of them are already supported with certain tools. And we have, for instance, curricula, training curricula for all these 3 parts. Okay, so just a few words about implementing. Like I said, I started since 2000s. I conducted hundreds of workshops on business TRIZ training. Well, you see, that's my favorite. It was in Malaysia. It was not a big one, but then we had like 260 people in the room. You see, that's exactly me standing in the room. Also in Belarus, in Sweden, in Jordan, Chile, China, Iceland, Taiwan. I spent like several years in Taiwan, not years, but during several years again to Taiwan to do. India, we had a very nice workshops with, thanks to TRIZ Asia, with 36 people, 3-day workshop. Also last year we had a workshop also in India and other countries. Well, I could put more, but I think that's just enough to show the broad geography. Also last year we created a business TRIZ association, www.biztriz.net. The participation in the association is free. Well, if you go to this website, you can join. It just started. There's not too much information on it still, but you can find something interesting. It will grow. And also, like I said, there is a package. I do on-site training. I do online training. Yes, and right now I'm running 3 groups online, each group like 20 people. And also the advantage is that it's not only group training, it's a blended mode, group plus coaching. For example, level 1 training, each student gets 4 hours of personal coaching. And what is cool is that at this online training, people solve their own problems. So they come to the online training or in-house training, and they bring problems from their companies, from their businesses. And at the end of the day, well, it's not just one day, it could be a couple of weeks. And in the end of this, they leave with a solution to their challenge, their problem. Well, maybe usually people ask, are there some solution? Are there some cases, for example? Yes, not many, because the TRIZ in business community is still rather small. But just a few cases what TRIZ can do, I just put it here. And for example, this was, oh, not this one. Yes. Different kind of, like I said, different type of problems. One of the companies, oh, that was a terrible disaster because it came to replacement of CEO of the company. I don't, but there was a very huge competition from China. Also, there was one case here at the University in the Netherlands. Well, it's not probably exactly business, but still, it's a sort of a business problem when the student rates started to drop, and we need to find the cause of the drop and a solution. So the problem was fully solved. And there's a problem from B2B electronics company in the United Kingdom. So they were losing a major customer who was actually responsible for 15% of their sales. And the result was that customer returned to the company. This was a retail supermarket change. This was strategic forecast, road mapping, the short part of TRIZ, you remember, when we were looking into the future, what new innovative business solutions we could be. About 30 such solutions were put on a roadmap, and some of them were implemented by now. Well, this is what already you've seen. This is a food company here in the Netherlands also was solving a logistic problem, saving 1.5 million euros per year. Another company with industrial appliances, 20 million euros revenues. Also, we made a new business model which helped them to increase a market share by 30% and also redevelop the brand image of the company. I think I ran rather fast and provided you with some information. And if I see the watch, we still have 2 minutes. So the final word I would like to say that if you look from the sky, what is business TRIZ? It's just like a normal TRIZ. It is a combination of, first of all, systematic approach, plus logic, plus creativity, and plus knowledge. And at the end, you get a rapid acceleration of successful solution search, or creating and road mapping new solutions and new ideas. That's all what I wanted to tell you and fit into that 90 minutes. And I want to thank you very much. Also, TRIZ Asia for Association of Asia for inviting me here. And well, you see that there is a website and my email right here, so you can feel free to contact me if you wish some more information or anything else. So I guess now that's time for questions. And thank you very much once again for having me here and for letting me to present this information and to share it with the world.
Thank you, Valerie, for the very insightful session. There are a couple of questions, and without making any loss of time, I'll go directly to the question. It is from Mr. Praveen that how TRIZ helps in academics. And I suppose you are one of the best person to answer it because you are associated with universities since long and you are conducting many courses. Over to you.
Well, of course, you see, if you talk about first, let's start maybe with a broader area, academics from a technical trees. Definitely, technical trees is excellently helps with R&D. Like with technical trees, I run 80-hour course every July, and then there is 52 hours, so in total it's 132-hour course where students, bachelor and master students, learn how to invent. And then many of them take these parts to their master theses, right? Then we are talking about business trees. It's not there yet because, well, it is largely unknown in the world, in the academic world. But several business schools, actually, like I said, TS Business School also, there are some business schools in Germany and in France, they already implement business trees into their curricula and into their studies. There are also several universities who look at mostly my papers and the products from Darrell Mann from UK and start some research. And this research, there are two conferences, large conferences in the world. One is called TRIZ Future. You can check it, TRIZ Future, which is organized by the European TRIZ Association. So there are some papers published on these conferences also coming from TRIZ Business. So this is an excellent, for example, I would say, if you look at academics, using TRIZ for technology or for business is absolutely fantastic for making PhDs, right, for preparing PhD students, because it brings radically new approach, it brings a new dimension into the research work. So primarily, I think that in academics, this is a level of, let's say, master students, bachelor students, and of course, PhD students. So, but the how it is applied, there could be different variants.
Yeah, an extension to this question is that how this TRIZ methodology would be useful for selection of the academic projects.
Well, with TRIZ, we can identify the potential, how you say it, the potential. For instance, if certain projects are proposed, we can use an audit by TRIZ. We know the trends of evolution, we know the patterns of evolution, and we can simply identify will it have value or not. I think that's a very important area where TRIZ can be applied.
And what would be the TRIZ role in concentrating the post-COVID-19 business innovation now?
I will tell you that during the last 3 months, I saved, together with my customers, we saved several companies from being ruined due to COVID-19. Well, of course, I don't have too much time to talk about it. For instance, one company was completely shut down and was going to bankrupt because during 3 months, that was a company which has a very close contact, and they had only financial pillow for 2 months, and they were not allowed to do their business. They could not get any, because of small companies, they could not get any loan, for example, and they were almost on a verge of the bankruptcy. And we found with TRIZ way how to do they never believed that they could use their competence online. Like, let's imagine this is physiotherapy, you know? Can you do physiotherapy online? Yes, you can, right? So, but also there were some other things. So like I said, that the biggest advantage of TRIZ is that you can solve problems fast. And you can create new intellectual property. You can create new value fast. And in the post-COVID times, the problems will only emerge, unfortunately, because, well, we are probably expect the second wave of economic crisis. We don't know, but maybe. In this case, we have to be able fast and quick and with a low risk. What's important, which we always deal in fast, is a high risk. And TRIZ helps to deal with that by lowering the risk, because you understand, okay, you see where the contradiction is and how to solve it. So, but unfortunately, there are not many, let's say, people who are prepared or trained with TRIZ, or have TRIZ competence. Well, but there are some, and I think I've been already invited to a number of committees, right, on COVID-19 and post-time. Well, unfortunately, I don't have time myself, but I know that some colleagues of mine were invited as well.
Okay, next question is that can TRIZ also be called as a continuous or a continual improvement process?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is sort of a cognitive dissonance. You see, if you look back at 40 years ago, you could create or make one invention or innovation, and then you could create, you can live for 20 years from it, right? Today, if you look at companies like LG or Samsung, well, they have different policies. Once they create the inventions for, let's say, mobile phone, some inventions are not even being patented, because the time for patenting takes a couple of years, perhaps. But during this couple of years, a new innovation will come. So today, it's very simple. The companies which are willing to operate on, let's say, national or global levels, not just selling coffee in a certain district, they have to become innovation machines, innovation factories. There is numerous ways. And definitely, if you improve today, even you look at the improvement of services, look at hotel business. Hotel business, well, didn't care about the changes during hundreds of years almost. And now they're trying, because the competition is too high, they're trying to innovate here and here and here to improve this and this and this and this. Since I'm almost a hotel citizen, so I know this and I see it, and I speak to owners of hotels or managers very often. Yes, it is absolutely.
So there is a next question which says like how close can we see TRIZ with Six Sigma or lean methods? So I would phrase it like how TRIZ is different from these two methods, that is Six Sigma and lean.
Very simple. If you look at the Six Sigma, let's say TRIZ is absolutely well matched with DFSS, Design for Six Sigma. That started at Samsung. Samsung brought TRIZ to complement it with the DFSS. When you do DFSS, Design for Six Sigma, and you identify problems in define and measure processes, you identify, let's say, 100% of problems that must be solved. And traditionally, 90% of problems can be solved through design of experiments, Taguchi, and so forth, through optimization. However, 10% consists this conflict of requirements. And to solve this 10%, you need innovation. And it is why Samsung and also General Electric brought TRIZ to the process to complement. So you look for problems with design and measurement of Six Sigma, and then you solve 90% of problems with traditional tools and 10% of problems with TRIZ. So that's how they are measured. Well, that also can be done with processes. There is no much difference. Also with lean, because lean also is a complex of tools, complex of methods. And when you're speaking about the highest degree of, let's say, optimization, the highest degree of, let's say, when you want to have most with the least, that's exactly where TRIZ is, because TRIZ helps you to find resources so you can actually implement your lean strategy in the most effective, or I would say not effective, effective and efficient way. But I've seen actually if TRIZ and Six Sigma are compatible rather well, then still TRIZ and lean, maybe I haven't seen two great examples, I must admit, but I hope they will come definitely, because the philosophy of lean and philosophy of TRIZ are very close to each other. Yeah.
There is another very good question, Valerie, that is in defining the contradiction. Basically, it is a big challenge because for the same situation, we end up with many multiple contradictions.
Actually, defining contradiction is extremely simple. Absolutely, absolutely. It is, well, I can imagine that in the literature that you read, if you are not familiar with TRIZ, there is a lot of confusion. It can bring a lot of confusion if you especially self-study TRIZ. How to define contradictions? Very simple. It's absolutely simple. There are two ways. One way is, okay, in a contradiction, something always gets wrong. Something degrades. So you have to say what degrades, right? That's first question. For example, look at the problem. Problem is always either insufficient effect, either excessive effect, either fully controllable effect, or either some negative effect. Let's take a bicycle. The bicycle has a tire, and tire explodes because it goes on a sharp object. So we ask, what's the negative effect? Tire explodes. Huh? And you ask a question, what is the cause? Well, the cause is that the rubber or resin, whatever it's tire, is pretty, is not strong enough. And what is a positive effect and it's not strong enough? Costs. Now you have a contradiction. You have a cause, always the tire is not strong enough. Positive effect, costs are perfect. And the negative effect, the tire can explode. So that's it. So if the tire, now you rebuild it into the sentence if, then, else. If the tire is made from not strong rubber, then what's good? It has low costs, but what's bad? It explodes. That's it. So now you can actually invert it and to get the right contradiction. If the tire is, sorry, if the the material is strong, then the tire is not exploding, what is good, but it is very expensive. And opposite, if it's not strong enough, it costs perfect, low cost, but it explodes. You can do it with anything. But of course, any problem has this sort of several contradictions. And in this case, this tool, RCA+, which I showed you, does the job. It showed you not only the contradictions which form the problem, but the contradictions which are related with contradiction with a relationship and or relationship. Let me explain. You have traffic in a city, right? What is the cause of the traffic? Because there are too many cars, right? Okay, too many cars, that's good because all people want to go home, right? So too many cars has a disadvantage. The traffic jam is created, but it has advantage. All people go home at the same time. It's contradiction, it's contradiction. But only to have too many cars on the road is not enough. The road should be narrow. So the road is narrow. Why it is narrow? Because it's a street in a city. You cannot just make it broader. There are houses around, infrastructure around. So the road must be narrow to preserve the infrastructure, and the road must be a very broad, a very wide, so the cars could move there. So having just, but what is most important here? Having just enough cars, and many cars is not enough. You have to have many cars, and the road must be narrow. And the cars should go at the same time. Because if you have many cars, but this many cars go in different time intervals, then the contradiction is not happening. What is important when you identify all these contradictions? Yes, there will be a number of contradictions, but once they are related with a relationship, and it's just enough to solve one of them, and you entirely solve the whole problem. If you solve a problem with the narrowness of the road, imagine that your road becomes virtually as broad as possible. It's a sort of extendable road. Or you can extend the road, not in a breadth, but you can extend, create several layers, right? In this, when you create several layers of the road, you increase the capacity of the road without making it broader. So no, there is no difficulty to. Today we have all the tools. Something that was, oh, sorry, too much talking. Something that was too difficult and too confusing 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Today we have the tools like in TRIZ. If you have root conflict analysis in a Google, you'll get to some papers written by me. You will see how it works and how easy it is to create contradictions. Actually, you don't even to do it. It's created once you build a RCA plus map, then the contradictions emerge automatically.
Okay, you have some water, and then I'll come with the next question.
Yes, please.
Ready for that? Okay. We know that TRIZ is applicable in all domains, but there is a question like, is TRIZ be applied in biological sciences, life sciences, biotech, and these kind of areas?
Well, first of all, I would probably refine a little bit your saying that, I'm not sure that TRIZ as is, it's applicable to all domains. First, I will explain why. Because TRIZ is well applicable in domains when you have clearly systems, right? Systems. Systems are objects maybe created by people primarily, and they have certain borders, they have certain structure. However, we not only have systems, we have something that we call environments. If you look at the company, it's a system. If you look at the car, it's a system. But if you look at the city, it's not a system. It is something different. The connections there are different rather than the system. Because system is created for some outer goal. But the such things like a forest, for example, or a city, it is something which exists for itself, for maintaining itself. And that's what makes it different. To apply the same regularities as we apply for man-made systems or artificial systems, or let's say more primitive systems, that the same principles are not exactly applied to what we call environments. You know, this is difference between systems and environments. That's why perhaps it's more difficult to use TRIZ for, let's say, social problem solving. For example, fighting a crime in a city. Because again, crime, it's not in a system. This is an environment, it's a stream, whatever we call it, or a distributed system, maybe, I don't know. Now, coming back to the question to biology, yes, actually, there is, you can check a company which is called BioTRIZ, biotriz.com. This is established by professors Olga and Nikolai Bogodarovs in Bath, UK. Just type biotriz.com and you will drop to their website. You will see a lot about trees and biology. Also, there is some research about trees and how do you call it? The science also biomimetics. Yes, so also we can check trees biomimetics. There are connections because there are plenty of similar principles, and also as we have 40 principles for let's say technology and business, there are also applications of some principles for living environments, living organisms, and biology. It is, I wouldn't say that it's broadly developed, but you can get in touch with BioTRIZ guys, with Olga and Nikolai, and we'll be happy. They are always very open and willing to communicate, and they will provide you with more information. They also have some books published already.
True. And then which business will be in boom after the pandemic situation?
Travel. Well, of course, That's always very interesting. Just look at the stock exchange index, right? Which companies? It's always a fun to look. I was doing it in some days of the lockdown once we had it here. Luckily, we don't do anymore here in the Netherlands. Which company, for example, the prices of most, the biggest gainer during the COVID crisis was Joseph Bezos on Amazon. All the companies, grocery stores, and supermarkets which were selling online, their stocks went really up because they were the most demanded most demanded businesses. To understand clearly which businesses will be demanded in a post-COVID, we have to understand how the environment and the system will transform. What will become? For example, we already have growth of online businesses, services, education, and so forth. That will grow because there are certain benefits. Also, there could be businesses which make a combination. That's what I'm putting on. It's a blend of virtual and really physical services. It's hard at the moment to say what exactly it will be, but definitely it will. Well, we are thinking about it.
नाही आता स्पेसिफिक आहे पुढचे त्यांचे प्रॉब्लेम ऑफ
Sorry? I think.
So in one of the example you have shown that cost competitive is there. How to solve the problem of that? I think you may have to take it quickly now.
The cost
To solve the problem of cost competitiveness, which you mentioned in your example.
cost loss of competence. There's some breaking. I'm not sure. I capture you.
Cost competitiveness.
Low cost competitiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what problem you mean?
You have mentioned in one of your example
Yeah.
that there is like whenever there is a cost competitiveness, how should we address it?
And which problem I mean? What exactly problem it was? Or you asking in general?
General.
How we look at the cost. First of all, you might have different costs, of course. You might have cost of your value proposition of a product or service. Then you have cost of running your business. Then you have infrastructure costs. Well, the accountant knows very well. What we do, for instance, one of the best ways to deal with costs is to go for treatment. We do analysis of the processes and systems that we have, and we identify those components which have the lowest ratio value costs. Like you can do it for business system, you can do it for a process. Like every operation, you can look at the cost of the operation, and when you look at the value delivered by the operation, and then you can rank all these operations according to the ratio value versus cost, and you will have again a chart, value cost diagram, value cost chart, where you have four let's say quadrants. Here in the top left corner will be elements with most value, highest value, and lowest cost. And at the bottom right, we will have components which have high costs but low value. But you still need probably these operations. You still the functions. So what you do, you simply remove these elements, but you share the functions, right, and put them onto the other components, either of your system or the super system on your customers, right? Yeah, why not? The best way is when the job is done by your customers or your suppliers. So you bring it out. So this is a general trend of lowering the costs by either reducing all these low value, high cost elements or components from your business. And second is outsourcing the costly elements to the super system, to the environment. Like Facebook, I mentioned. We all work for Facebook, but we all get nothing. Yeah. This is a general strategy. There are other strategies as well. Like you can actually combine two competing systems. You can take a system which delivers similar services, for example, let's say fast food, cheap service, and gourmet service, high-end gourmet service, which is costly. And the question is, how to deliver high-end gourmet service with the price of fast food? Well, you know the alternative systems, alternative contradictions. Then we have to set up these alternative contradictions and solve this problem. There are already some examples.
Yeah. Specific questions, I think we can answer them offline also. One of the question is on like a general level that one of the institute, they have got a TRIZ chapter, and he is asking like, can I become TRIZ master? What would be the quick steps or process to go for that?
I have two answers. First, you can become TRIZ master, no doubt. Second, it will take a lot of time. Of course, there are actually several ways to become, several organizations to become TRIZ master, but first of all, you need to go through 4 levels of certification. 1, 2, 3, 4, and not only 5 is a TRIZ master. Today, there are several organizations which assign their own TRIZ masters. The best is, of course, the most reputable and the broadest is TRIZ. I'm a vice president of TRIZ. This is International TRIZ Association. But it requires you can become TRIZ master either if you do some contribution to TRIZ. So let's say you develop some tool or you considerably improve some TRIZ tool. Or second is when you prove your practical contribution with TRIZ, like you made 30 patents, 20 30 patents with TRIZ, or you created some business model with TRIZ, and so forth. It takes time. I would say that if you're in a starting, let's say, to become a TRIZ master will take like 7-10 years.
Become a member of International Business TRIZ Association, IBTA.
How to become?
Member of IBTA.
Yeah, very simple. Go to biztriz.net, the file which I showed you. Let me see. Yeah, this here. www.biztriz.net, and there is register. And that's it. You don't need to pay anything for free.
So we are close to 4 o'clock now. So I think like there are a few more questions and we can always take them offline. You all get like you have the email ID of Mr. Valerie, you have my email ID, or you can always put some queries on info@trizasia.com. So Valerie, it was really a very insightful lecture. And we have traveled right from 1886 to 2020, and you have taken us to future also. It was really enlightening. So there are no words actually to say like how much we can learn through you on the business TRIZ, because technical TRIZ, yeah, there are a lot of material available, a lot of people there are there to teach, but business TRIZ, as you mentioned, is quite new also, and still you have got created such a great insight in this. So with this, we have come to the conclusion part. Those who are interested in getting the certificate, e-certificate, we have already posted the link. You can just quickly go through it, and quick feedback would lead you to certificate on your mail. And by this, I thank Valerie and IBTA and all organizations with which Valerie is associated, including TRIZ Asia. And I quickly would like to thank all our support partners that is AISSMS College of Engineering, SIES College of Arts, Commerce and Science in Mumbai, Guru Gobind Singh College of Engineering and Research in Nasik, Priyadarshini College of Engineering, Nagpur, Sitna College of Engineering and Technology, Amravati, Lokmanya Tilak College of Engineering, New Mumbai, KK Bagh College of Engineering, Nasik. Again, another college from Nasik is Pune Vidyarthi Griha. Then Global Innovators and Entrepreneurs Network and Pune chapter of ASM International. All of them have supported our today's session. And before going to conclude or end this session, I would like to say that this is a very sincere effort from TRIZ Asia to bring TRIZ masters and TRIZ experts all over from world and from different expertise area. So we started this session in a few weeks back with Alex Lugomirsky, and he spoke on orientation of TRIZ methodology and what is chapter activities going on in India. Then was Dr. Oleg Fagenson from Samsung, and he put up his views on TRIZ avenues of consultancies. Then Dr. Zulhasni from Malaysia, and he again had some views on research, innovation, and consultancies. Then Mr. Valerie, we have just heard him, and I'm just opening one more area, and that is design of patentability, and nothing less than TRIZ master, Dr. Sergey Ikovenko. So yet we have not decided the date, but very soon we'll be planning. And we are just trying to bring forth all the activities or all the areas through which we can reach to the success and through innovation. Gone are the days when we are doing the same thing and reaching to certain solutions or certain outcomes. We need to be innovative. We need to increase our speed to reach there. And this is very much possible through TRIZ. And at the most important point is that it will cut down the time very sharply. So with this, with the permission of all, I declare that today's session is concluded. And thank you very much, Valerie. It is always been fun and pleasure and insight to listen to you. Thanks for spending your time. I have seen your calendar. I know how busy you are, but still you spared early morning time for us. Again, heartfelt thank you for you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sandeep, and I thank everyone who joined our session online. Also, my best greeting to PVN, because I know he made great efforts to organize all this, and also all the members of your team of TRIZ Asia.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for your kind words, and definitely we look forward for more sessions from your side.
I
am
take
sure you'll be
opportunity to
available
thank
and will oblige
President
us
of
with your presence.
I take opportunity to thank President of TRIZ Asia, Mr. PV Narayan, for taking all these efforts and getting so many experts to India. And this is also a post-COVID advantage that you can reach to so many people sitting at your home.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Valerie, thank you once again on our behalf, and it was
Thank you.
pleasure having
Thank
you
you.
here. And we'll be having more sessions this way, and probably we'll once again call you for some specific session to be organized. Okay. Take
Absolutely.
care. Goodbye. Have a nice day ahead. Take care.
Okay.
Please stay safe.
Goodbye. Goodbye,
Stay
everyone.
positive.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Take care. Take care. Bye bye.